15 northern states in Nigeria. 5 journalists died in fresh Israeli airstrikes. One dead, dozens injured as 6.1 magnitude earthquake hit Turkey's Balıkesir province. Details of these and other stories in a moment. I'm Jemima Fateye. Now the news. A fresh flood alert has warned of heavy rainfall over a 5-day period across 15 northern Nigerian states. The Federal Ministry of Environment issued the alert through its Flood Early Warning System Center, identifying 68 high-risk locations in the northern zone. Consequently, residents and stakeholders in the affected areas were asked to take urgent precautionary measures, with reiterated calls for clearing of drainage systems, relocating from high-risk zones, and ensuring early evacuation in vulnerable communities. According to the center forecast, the rainfall is expected between August 10 and August 14, one which could pose significant flood risk, potentially worsening the humanitarian toll already recorded this year. The Embassy of Nigeria in Washington, D.C., the Consulate General of Nigeria in New York, and the Consulate General of Nigeria in Atlanta have agreed to address all concerns related to Nigerians living in diaspora. The mission made the pledge after holding a virtual town hall meeting with Nigerians across the country over the weekend. The meeting, which was meant to address diaspora concerns and counter online misinformation, brought forward issues on matters ranging from passports and visas to investments, trade, and national image. The acting ambassador of Nigeria to the U.S., Ambassador Samson Itegbodje, quickly announced that Nigerian missions in the New York and Atlanta now have a passport printer to speed up processing. In the meantime, homeless people living in the country's capital, Washington, D.C., have been ordered to pack their things and leave. U.S. President Donald Trump had earlier given the order with a vow to tackle crime in the city and make it safer and more beautiful than it ever.
What a shame. The rate of crime, the rate of muggings, killings, and everything else, we're not going to let it. And that includes bringing in the National Guard, maybe very quickly, too. This has to be the best-run place in the country, not the worst-run place in the country. And it has so much potential.
However, the city's mayor, Muriel Bowser, has rejected the negative categorization of the city by the White House, saying Washington, D.C. was not experiencing a crime spike.
Over the past year, and thank you for showing, we have decreased violent crime by 26%. The year before that by 35%. It is true that we had a terrible spike in crime in 2023, but this is not 2023. This is 2025.
Recall that Trump signed an order last month making it easier to arrest homeless people. United Nations ambassador have criticized Israel's plan to take control of Gaza City. The envoys warned that such plan could breach international humanitarian law and further endanger civilians and hostages. Ambassadors from the UK, France, Denmark, Greece, and Slovenia heard their views at an emergency UN Security Council meeting, urging Israel to abandon the planned offensive as it would do nothing to secure the return of hostages and risk further endangering their lives.
I'm extremely concerned over the prolonged conflict, the reports of atrocities and further human toll that is likely to unfold following the government of Israel's decision to expand military operations in Gaza. Since the escalation of hostilities in October 2023, the health authorities in Gaza have documented the deaths of 98 children from severe acute malnutrition, 37 alone since the 1st of July.
We appreciate the description of almost all of you of the deepness of the pain and the tragedy that our people is enduring.
Meanwhile, China has since condemned what it termed as collective punishment of Gaza's population, while Russia sees the entire exercise as a reckless intensification of hostilities. In a response at a press briefing, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defended the move, arguing that taking Gaza City was the best way to end the war. The United States at the UN meeting helped accentuate the defense.
It is unfortunate that members have again taken advantage of today's meeting to accuse Israel of genocide. These accusations are politically motivated and categorically false. They are part of a deliberate, cynical propaganda campaign as Hamas attempts to win symbolic victories to compensate for total defeat in war.
Nonetheless, he pledged that the operation would proceed fairly quickly and would free Gaza from the strange. National journalists have lost their lives after an Israeli missile struck their base close to the popular Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City. The Al Jazeera correspondents were inside the tent for journalists at the hospital's main gate when the Israeli strike hit. Al Jazeera described the incident as a targeted assassination and yet another premeditated attack on press freedom. A correspondent with the outfit, Anim Mahmoud, had spoken on phone to detail the strike that killed 5 of his colleagues.
This is perhaps the hardest thing I'm reporting about for the past 22 months. I'm not far from the Shifa hospital, just 1 block away, and I could hear the massive explosion that took place in the past half an hour or so near Shifa hospital. I could see it when it lit up the sky, and just within moments the news circulated. It was the journalist stand at the main gate of the Shifa hospital. At this particular time of the night, it calms down. All the journalists gather in one area, try to either talk to each other, help each other to survive these conditions, when a drone strike hit the tent, killing Anas al-Sharif and his colleague Muhammad Tariq. Both are correspondents of Al Jazeera Arabic on the ground. They have been reporting on the atrocities of the Israeli military, the airstrikes, the enforced starvation and dehydration.
Meanwhile, shortly after the strike, the Israel Defense Force (IDF) said it had specifically targeted one of the correspondents, Anas al-Sharif, who was alleged to have served as the head of terrorist cell in Hamas. You're listening to Global Box Adamimogo 107 and 107.7 FM, transmitting live from Olojudo's Palace, Ido-Ekiti. Still to come, 1 dead, dozen injured as 6.1 magnitude earthquake hits Turkey's Balıkesir province.
Top stories, real voices.
Have arrived in Lagos, according to authorities in Nigeria.
Tune in to Adamimogo 107.7 FM for a fresh perspective on news. Adamimogo 107.7 FM, the voice of the light.
Glad to know you're still there. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel via Adamimogo 107.7 FM. For happenings around you or news inquiry, please call our newsroom on this number 0915 786 8095. Now to the rest of the bulletin. The 6.1 magnitude earthquake that struck the country's northwestern Balıkesir province on Sunday evening has recorded a casualty. The victim, an 81-year-old woman, died shortly after she was rescued from a rubble in Sendegi, the epicenter of the quake. Turkey Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya confirmed that aside the casualty recorded, 29 people were injured while 16 buildings collapsed in the aftermath of the quake. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has since extended his condolences and wished a swift recovery to those affected. He assured that recovery operations were being closely monitored. Elsewhere, Australia says it will formally recognize a Palestinian state during the United Nations General Assembly in September. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese noted this after his country secured commitments from the Palestinian authorities to demilitarize old general elections and maintain recognition of Israel's right to exist.
Today I can confirm that at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September, Australia will recognise the state of Palestine. Australia will recognise the right of the Palestinian people to a state of their own, predicated on the commitments Australia has received from the Palestinian Authority.
According to him, a two-state solution is humanity's best hope to break the cycle of violence in the Middle East and to bring an end to the conflict. Recall that Israel is facing mounting global pressure to end the war in Gaza. However, Israel itself has warned that recognizing a Palestinian state rewards terrorism. A Defense Ministry report has revealed a significant decline in its military population. The decline, which has spanned over 6 years, showed that the country now has only 450,000 military personnel. According to the report, the decline also mirrors the country's poor birth rate, one of the lowest in the world. While South Korea still retains compulsory military service mainly because of its fragile situation with its nuclear-armed neighbor, North Korea, the country is projected to need at least 500,000 soldiers to defend an attack from the north anytime. American tech company Nvidia and a micro device firm AMD have agreed to pay the US government 15% of their chip sales in China. The arrangement applies to Nvidia's H2O chips and AMD's MI308 chips, with the payment calculated on revenue generated from sales in the world's second largest economy. Nvidia announced recently that export control rules will let America compete in China and worldwide. An analyst and vice president at global research firm Forrester, Charlie Dye, describes the agreement as unprecedented. Recall that resumption of chip sales to China comes as the trade tensions between US and China thaws. Quickly on sports, European League winners Tottenham are hoping to sign Manchester City's Savinho before the close of the current transfer window. Discussions are up and running between both clubs in recent days over a possible deal for the 21-year-old Brazilian. However, it remains undecided whether City will sanction a move for Brazil international. Savinho was a regular under Pep Guardiola last season, scoring 3 times in 48 appearances across all competitions. Meanwhile, former Chelsea, Madrid and Juventus forward Alvaro Morata has joined Syria side Como. The Spaniard relaunched his career after his Galatasaray loan deal was terminated. The 32-year-old striker, who spent the second half of last season on loan at Galatasaray, has decided to join Como to play a more important role than he did with the Rossoneri last season. With our sports story, we end this edition of Global Box on Adamimogo 107.7 FM, Ido Ekiti. Just before we go, the highlights again. We brought it to you that the Federal Ministry of Environment in Nigeria has put 15 northern states on high alert over possible flooding from heavy rainfall over a 5-day period. We also told you that 5 journalists who work for a Qatar-based media organization have been killed by an Israeli airstrike. Defense forces in Israel defended the action, saying one of them was a terrorist. And finally, an octogenarian has been killed in the aftermath of a 6.1 magnitude earthquake that struck Turkey's northwestern Balıkesir province recently. Aside the 81-year-old female victim, 29 others were badly wounded. That's Global Box, edited by Fortune Omoshola